Hi, in this presentation, I would like to explain how our body produces lactate, as well as how our body can use that same lactate to produce energy. Um, to understand this process, um, let's see how the breaking down of a molecule of glucose uh, will impact in that lactate formation. So glucose breaks down, and as we can see here, there are several steps. Um, so one of the byproducts of the breaking down of glucose is a pyruvate. So pyruvate within the body, within the cell, will be converted into lactate. Lactate leaves the cell and will do more work. So in this slide, I want to um, show what is the difference between lactate and the lactic acid. The pyruvate will receive two hydrogens, and with that, we will have lactic acid. So, lactate is lactic acid missing one proton. The difference between lactate and lactic acid, it is the chemical structure between them. Once again, missing one proton. In this next slide, I would like to explain the Cori cycle. Um, so the Cori cycle, it starts with that molecule of glucose, its byproduct pyruvate, being converted to lactate. That lactate leaves the muscle cell, enters the liver. So this process here, we call it gluconeogenesis, where lactate converted back to pyruvate and glucose. So glucose can enter the muscle again, and our body during exercise, sorry, can keep producing more energy, ATP as we can see here, and then ATP as we can see here through the gluconeogenesis. How are these pathways affected by exercise intensity and the training adaptation? So, short duration anaerobic exercise during maximal muscle contraction will result in a quick lactate buildup, a lactate accumulation. Because our bodies can store glycogen, so we're breaking down the glycogen, a source of energy, and to produce energy so quickly. And because of that, we will accumulate lactate. So the intensity of the exercise, it is a high intensity. With that said, rapid fatigue because of acidification of the muscles leading to the shutdown of glycolysis and the lack of energy production. And then, so one of the reasons is lactate accumulates because disappearance by oxidation or substrate conversion doesn't match its production. So as we learned in the Cori cycle, our bodies have that ability to recycle, to use the lactate, where we will be converted to glucose, so we can use that source to produce more energy. And then in this scenario, lactate will accumulate rapidly, due to maximal muscle contraction, and the disappearance by oxidation does not match its production, resulting in anaerobic threshold. Anaerobic threshold, yes. So, more lactate threshold, maximal capacity for aerobic system. There will also be blood lactate buildup, but there's a difference between untrained individuals and trained individuals. Blood lactate occurs at a higher percentage in trained individuals. For instance, untrained individuals will be exercising at a VO2 max between 50 to 55%, opposed to trained individuals, where 80 to 90% of a VO max will be the intensity for a lactate threshold. So interesting, we see here the aerobic endurance athletes have a rapid rate of lactate removal. As we learned, the conversion of lactate back to glucose through the Krebs cycle. Also, the genetics might play an important role because those aerobic endurance athletes may have great quantity of muscle fiber type 1, and then those fibers are highly oxidative. Also, we see here the relationship oxygen consumption and blood lactate. So, for trained or untrained individuals, exercising at a light to moderate activity, let's say 50% of aerobic capacity. So, blood lactate formation equals to disappearance, meaning that oxygen meets metabolic demands. In the next slide, we will see that through training, individuals can improve that lactate threshold. So this study showed that 12 weeks of strength training lowered the blood lactate concentration at relatively exercise intensity, and significantly increased lactate threshold. So once again, strength training can help to lower the blood lactate concentration, as well as increase significantly. And this study showed a 12% of improvement in terms of the lactate threshold. Also, can lactate be used metabolically? As we already learned, that lactate produced in the muscle travels in the bloodstream to the liver, where it is reconverted to pyruvic acid back to glucose, so that it is the Krebs cycle. So yes, it can be used metabolically. Also, lactate produced in exercise skeletal muscle is taken up and oxidized in the brain. So it is recycling. It is a recycle during prolonged exercise. So definitely, lactate is a source of energy during exercise. Are there consequences of lactate accumulation on our ability to sustain exercise? Well, lactate production causes acidosis. Increased lactate production is one of the several causes of muscle fatigue during intense exercise. So we see a decreasing in blood pH and concentration of hydrogen as well as carbon dioxide. So this is this graph we can see that as VO2 max increase, so the blood lactate concentration also increase. So blood lactate concentration at different exercise intensity will impact one's ability to exercise. What other key factors are at work at the cellular level that could cause exercise cessation? For instance, not enough mitochondrial cell where oxidation takes place. Why? Because lactate substrate will be oxidized within the mitochondria. So if we have more mitochondria, we can oxidize more lactate and use that to produce more energy. Removal of waste products not being quick enough. Also, delivery of oxygen to muscle cells might not be efficient. So if the delivery of oxygen to the muscle can be more efficient, so the mitochondria, with more mitochondria as well, we can use that lactate and keep recycling that to produce more energy. With that said, we should be able to exercise for a longer period of time. So here are the references that I used for this presentation, and this is the end of this presentation. Thank you.